All right, welcome to Talk-Jitsu with host Uke Mike, me, Jordan Preisinger from Jordan Teaches Jiujitsu, and we have a great guest today. We have Zoltan Bathory from Five Finger Death Punch. Zoltan is a Judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He started Judo in Hungary when he was just a kid, about 8 or 9, and in 2008 started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after he had a training session with Royce Gracie. And it was a great conversation. Mike, what was your favorite part of the conversation?
Oh man, just that he was talking about being legit as a black belt and being a superstar, megastar as well. Like just how he navigated that route. That was awesome. Just competing and stuff like that. He's a very interesting guy, multi-talented, Judo and Jiu-Jitsu black belt. It just blew me away. I loved the guy.
Exactly. It was really nice talking to him about Judo specifically, because that's like not my realm of like expertise. I think I'm a decent wrestler, but my Judo is not good. It could use some improvements. So it's cool, yeah, talking to him and learning more about that, and just, you know, talking to a celebrity is pretty cool. So it was a great time. And yeah, I wanted to ask you about you know, starting Judo in Hungary. Mm-hmm. I've been doing a lot of research on Sambo lately, and it seems like they're pretty similar sports. But in Hungary, you chose to, was there Sambo available, or you just chose to do Judo, or how was that?
So, you know, I was that kid. I was all into martial arts, you know, Bruce Lee, and making my own throwing stars and my own nunchucks, knocking myself out with it. You know, I was that kid. And, you know, but it was not available, you know, but Judo is an Olympic sport. I mean, like, same thing with Sambo. It's not available. Like, it's more of a Russian thing. And it was not really available for us. But Judo is everywhere. And it you know, used to be state sponsored because it's an Olympic sport. So you don't even have to pay for it. You can just join, you know, a state-sponsored judo club and academy, and then you train there. And they're everywhere, right? So that was the most accessible. Like, I was really interested in Kung Fu and everything else, but this was there. It was available, and it was a high level, you know, it's a high level thing because, you know, like the clubs that I would go to, there are guys that are training for Olympics, right? And Olympic trials. And so Judo was really high level, and it was readily available. And so, you know, so that's kind of how, you know, how I ended up in Judo, but it sort of shaped my whole life. I would say that the personality and how I see the world, that actually came from that, because it's not like, you know, you become a martial artist, right? You become a martial artist. Number one, Judo is very, very traditional. So, you know, white gis, you bow before you step into the room, and, you know, there's this very, very traditional. So it kind of creates this sacred space. So when you step into your you know, dojo, this is not like you're running around and being an idiot. It's like you're in a sacred space, you know. So that's already like puts you in a different mindset. Like, I'm here now, and that's one of the reasons still to this day I like gi, because it makes me feel a certain way, you know, versus no gi, because that tradition. So, you know, you walk into the academy, and there's that, you know, that there's that serenity, there's that silence, and there's this, you know, there is this ancient traditional sort of, you know, that this vibe is amazing to me, right? And it's very quickly rewire your mind. Once you stepped in there, in a different place, you think differently, and then you start to get used to, you start to love this feeling, and that is one reason. The other is the martial art itself, that you become a martial artist. I'm not training Judo. It's not like any other sports, like you know, pick any sport, right? You're doing that sport versus you become a martial artist. It's not exactly the same, because the philosophy is coming with it. So you become a martial artist. And how the way it rewires your mind. And I mean, you guys train, so this already happened to you, I'm pretty sure, that, you know, rewires your mind, that you see obstacles as challenges, right? Because it's no, you know, and it's no longer, you no longer look at something like, oh, this or that happened to me, right? And you can just step out from in life, right? This or that happened to me, now I have to solve this situation, right? And everything becomes sort of a chess game. That whatever happens to me, it's just another battle, and it's winnable some way. I don't know how, but that's my job. I have to figure out how to win it, right? And you start to permeate your civilian life, so to speak. You become a martial artist, and every single thing in your life now is a chess game. Now it's about, these are challenges. These are not obstacles. These are for me to climb. These are me, and it's become a game, right? And I think that's kind of sort of what happened to me, and that's I think that's the reason also why I could succeed in life in my other areas, because I was wired that way. Everything was a game to me. And in a second you say like this or that is not possible, that's when I get excited. Like, oh, okay, now let's do it, you know? And that all comes from that. It all came from that this martial arts upbringing.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And yeah, you know, I think that like when you're grappling, you get submitted or you're taken down or whatever, you can't feel bad for yourself. You just got to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? So I think it's the exact same thing in life for sure. I think it's a great comparison. And do you think that, because you're a musician, do you think that like your musicianship and creativity has impacted your grappling, or and vice versa?
I mean, both are the same in some way, right? But what is it about? Balance, harmony, you know, and flow. That's what music is: balance, harmony, and flow. Timing. You know, martial arts, same exact thing. So the DNA of the two things are the same, in my opinion. Well, the DNA of the whole universe is the same. It's all about the patterns, the rhythm, that, you know, the timing. So yeah, of course, it's to me, it's absolutely connecting, right? But as for the career part of the music, I think that was definitely 100%, absolutely affected by being a martial artist. You know, and exactly as you just said, that something is happening, you go again, right? If you lose a fight, you go again, and then once you start competing, then it's even better, because what happens then? Now you're in a situation where, you know, this is inevitable. Right? You sign up, you're here now, and there's the other guy. There's nobody to help you. This is one guy. That doesn't matter. Team is there. I mean, I don't know how you guys are. I don't even hear my coaches or my my professor screaming. I'm just in the fight, right? I don't even hear it. So I should probably listen, but something to learn, right? But you know, you're the guy. You're it. And there's the other guy, and then now it's going to happen right now. And can you run away? Can you get out of it now? No. So this is, you know, translate that into real life. Now you're learning that when something happens, you have to deal with it right now. There's no sweeping under the rug. This is now, right? And then from then, you know, you accepted the inevitable. There is the battle, and then all these low martial arts rules become very clear that it's parallel to life. Like one of the things that we always say, right? Don't accept the position, right? Everything that sucks happens because you accepted a position somehow, somewhere that was not favorable to you. Something that you were just like, well, you know, I fight out of that, you know, or it's okay. No, it's not okay, right? You accepted a weak position. That's where it starts, right? Now, take that into real life. You accepted a relationship that just okay. You know what the end of that is, right? You're just wasting your time. You accepted a job that's just okay. That will derail your entire life if you keep doing that, right? So all these things, again, you can take it from martial arts and put it, you know, and parallel it to real life. And so that's kind of what happens. Once you compete, you start to be even more, how would I say this, diligent about, you know, upholding these martial art rules in real life. And that's obviously the second one. Don't accept the position. Then you get caught in a bad situation. Same thing in life. Shit happens, right? Sometimes something happens that is, you know, it's just bad news. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to have to figure out how to fight your way out of it, right? You can't give up. You can't, you know. And so that all these things are character and career builders. This is what makes you, right? And the more you do it, it's more obvious. Like this is one and the same. The patterns are the same, right? And then once this becomes, and when you become a master of it, right, then you become a spinner in some way because you got caught in a bad position. And I'm not even thinking about how to get out of it. I'm thinking about how do I reverse this? This is bad for you, right? So same thing in life. Like something bad happens, and can you look at this situation in a way that, okay, it looks bad, but maybe there's an advantage here, right? And this stuff becomes automatic. And once that becomes automatic, then you're surfing the wave. Your life is a chess game, and you're surfing the wave. And, you know, whatever happens, you just, hey, well, we'll fight it out. We'll figure this out, right? and it beats completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said about not accepting bad positions, because I think that's super common in jiu-jitsu, is just accept bad positions, where it's like sambo, wrestling, judo, you know, you don't want to be on the ground. You're always fighting to get back up, right? And it's becoming more popular in jiu-jitsu. I call it like anti-jiu-jitsu because it's kind of like disengaging. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a really good tactic. And but it is similar to life, right? Something bad happens. It's like let's get up, you know, and don't accept the bad position, get up.
Well, even if you start from the ground, right? But generally, jiu-jitsu guys are starting from the ground because it's safer for the academy, because it's safer in a way. Obviously, you go to competition class, you're gonna probably start on you know, standing. But you know, when there's 100 kids in the academy, you know, throwing each other around can cause injuries of others, and you know, the mat is busy, obviously, and there's a lot of liability. So that's kind of the reason why everybody's starting on the ground. But even then, you know, you're about to roll with somebody. I look at the position, and I can already tell you what's happening here. If the guy is sitting, I know that you're a guard player. Why the hell are you sitting, right? I know what's happening here. And then just imagine that the inner thighs are the mouth of the alligator. That's where the teeth is. That's where I'm not going in any circumstances, because you're a guard player. That's why you sat down. That's why you're doing it, right? If some people sit in a way that both of their knees are on the ground, right? So they're kneeling. That's just bad jiu-jitsu. If I push you back, you're going to tear your ligaments. That's just, you shouldn't be doing that, right? I always correct that when I see that. Like kneeling with both knees. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. You know, that's very dangerous, because I'm nice, but somebody maybe not, you know, and then there's a problem. Yeah. And so you stand in combat stand, because a combat stand is basically an interim position. Why do we have combat stand? It is because if somebody knocked you down on the street, right, and then you're on your back, what are you doing? You're protecting yourself by spinning around and with your feet trying to kick away, right? If somebody steps in, then you wrap them up and then you pull them down to the ground. But that's the idea. But in a second you want to stand up, you're going to swing your leg forward, right? Put it down, thread the other leg, and that's a kind of the combat stand. And you stand up and you can decide if I'm going forward or backward, right? But that interim position is the combat stand. So if I start on the ground, I start from combat stand because it's actual legitimate real position. That this would happen even on the street if I have to get up. And from here, with a single motion, without putting my hands down on the mat, I can stand up, forward or backwards, right? And I can keep my hand, you know, front of my face, and I can stand up and I can stand up, forward, up, backwards, right? From combat stand. You can't do that from sitting, and definitely can't do that from kneeling, right? So I look at those positions and it tells me two things immediately. A, I know what you're about. I know that you're a guard player again if you kind of lay down, right? And I think it's not a good idea to do that because it's a bad habit. It's just a bad habit.
Yeah,
you know.
That's something I've been talking about so much lately on my YouTube channel and my newsletters and everything, because not only do you want, because you don't want your knees on the mat for a lot of reasons. One is just if you have your knees kneeling on the mat, you're not gripping with your feet, right? And you need to grip the mat with your feet or your opponent with the feet. It doesn't really make sense to have them doing nothing, right? Your feet are grips just like your hands are. And, you know, like you said, like being on your knees, it's like, you know, you can't really control your base too well. If you have your foot on the mat, then you can drive forward into them. You can stand up fully. It's like you need your feet on the mat to be able to do all these things. So that's a common mistake I see white belts make all the time, just on their knees.
And is there a position in real life then that would happen? Any combat scenario, would that happen, that you're on your knees for any reason? That's unlikely that would actually happen. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, it's an unrealistic position, and it's dangerous because you can be, you know, plowed down and you will tear your ligaments. So that's just bad. The sitting thing, like, look, there are, you know, we all seen these guys who are extremely efficient guard players, right? And they sit down, they butt scoot in, and that's their thing, and you know, and difficult to deal with it. But you know, it still stands. I still look at it like, hey, it's still a martial arts, you know. Even though we have sports jiu-jitsu, it's still a martial arts, and I like to keep things realistic. That okay, would this happen if I can actually kick you in the face? Probably not. You know, it would not happen if you know, if I take away the the rules and the regulations of jiu-jitsu. So to me, it's, don't forget there's a martial arts. Now, if you started sending your feet, and or at least combat stand, and then you achieve that position, right? That's fine. But at least it started realistic, It started realistic from a realistic position, and then you realistically achieved what you wanted to do. So if you wanted to drum in your guard, but you did that from combat stand or from standing, right? Then okay, then it's real.
Well, if you're on your knees too, you can't stop the person from putting you in close guard, right? Because with your foot on the mat, your knee up, it's a frame keeping them from coming close to you. So there's so few positions where you actually want to be on your knees. Because even like side control, like yes, you're on your knees, but your toes are driving into the mat. You're still gripping with your feet, right? So, I would say that's both your feet and your knees are on there. You never want to have just your knees. And that's like something I've been trying to stress to people so much.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And, obviously, it's that's where your weight is, like let's say you mentioned side control, right? There are positions, obviously, like you're spinning around on your knees, you're using that. That's a tool, right? But you have to be conscious, obviously, when that is. When I get on my toes and it's full, you're enjoying my full gravitational force. Gravity is my friend,
Yeah.
I'm actually fighting super heavy and ultra heavy, so I'm not fun to be under. but generally, generally that's what I do. If your knees are down, that's where your weight is. So it's probably
exactly
the weight on you, right? On your floating wrist.
Well, I imagine.
You don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine your top game would be pretty heavy because like judo, sambo, it's so much about pins, right? Keeping people down on their back, which is so important for self-defense and it's very useful in jiu-jitsu. I think jiu-jitsu is learning slowly the importance of all that, but there's so much jiu-jitsu can learn from other sports like judo. So,
right.
It's great when judo guys start jiu-jitsu and spread their knowledge because it is kind of severely lacking in jiu-jitsu.
Well, this goes both ways actually, because, when I started jiu-jitsu, actually a little funny anecdote for you. I started training and obviously I'm a top, I'm aggressive and I'm generally a top player, right? And that's just simply because in judo I can't be on my back, right? So that's my game, right? And so I was a white belt. I started on the bottom just like anyone else, and and working my way up. But I already had this judo game, and so there was a moment in a dressing room, like there were like maybe 30 of us in a dressing room, and I was exhausted, and I was, in the conversation, I said something to the effect like, man, I always like my, Mika, my professor, I'm like, he always puts me with all the gorillas, man. Like I'm exhausted because he puts me with the, the silverbacks. Like I always have to, I'm a white belt, man. I have to struggle. Like everybody kind of looked at me and, 30 guys look at me like, what? And we always make these jokes. Everybody makes this joke. The wrestler white belt who comes in, you know what I mean? And it's not fun, right? And so everybody looks at me and everybody's like, dude, how much you weigh? I'm like, I don't know, like 215. It's like, you realize like you're the biggest guy here and you're a judo black belt. You're that a-hole that we're talking about. And for a moment, I'm like, oh my God, it is me. So that's my
everyone's worst nightmare.
Right. So they kept putting me with the biggest guys because nobody wanted to deal with me, right? And that's when I realized like, oh my God, I'm not learning anything here. I'm just being the judo guy who smashes, and I made it into a point of like, okay, like let's not do that, right? And there was a period of time when I felt like, I forgot judo, and I don't know jiu-jitsu, so I actually start sucking pretty badly because I was trying to not to go back to my habitual, motion, but I wasn't good enough for jiu-jitsu yet. Like, I wasn't good enough, the guard, for example, was a really strange concept for me, at the time, because I'm like, wow, I'm on my back. This is not good. Why am I here? Right. So there was that moment. So I had to learn everything from there. And, we have a ground game in judo, but, we have a Navaza and we train that, but not really, It's like, it's really about the throws. And it's even more emphasized now, right? Because the Olympic Committee is trying to make judo very distinct from other, from other martial arts and wrestling. So they're very much concentrating on the throws. So, back in the days when you use certain throws, you would get a koka, a yuko, those are small points, and a wazari is a half point. So ippon is 1 point, wazari is half, yuko was 25 and koka is 5, and they don't even use those now, right? Like, it's pretty much, if you sit down somebody, it's pretty much a wazari. If they shoulder or back touch the ground even for a second, it's an ippon, right? So we're not really concentrating on ground fighting that much, right? And jiu-jitsu became like super expert. It's super focused on ground fighting, obviously, and it became extremely sophisticated. There are so many things that you don't see it coming, right? And so these two together, actually, in my opinion, is what's the most efficient. I think jiu-jitsu developed so far now. It's you can't even, because judo jiu-jitsu was one thing, at one point back in a time, and it's kind of split. And I think that the way to do this is bringing back together.
When you first started learning jiu-jitsu, how did you find the time to train when you're on the road in such a successful band? I always wondered how you train, and your security guys are jiu-jitsu players as well, I've heard.
Right. So basically how this kind of started is 2007. I was on a tour where one of the other band had a couple of guys who trained jiu-jitsu. They were blue belts, right? And then we decided, like, hey, I train judo. Let's bring some mats, and then we're gonna set this up every day, and then we can trade techniques and start messing around. And so that's what we did. And since we were doing that completely accidentally, I met somebody while every day we were training, just trading techniques. And I met somebody who was a black belt under Hoyler, right? And I had no idea. Actually, I knew the guy for a long time. I just had no idea that he was training jiu-jitsu. And so he was like, hey, you guys train. Awesome. I can hook you up with maybe a private lesson with Royce, because we're going to California. The tour was going to California. So I did have my private with Royce. It was pretty funny. I got my ass whooped properly, And he's an interesting character. He came into the academy, kicks in the door, angry as hell, right? And I'm supposed to have a private with him, right? And all his black belts that were already there, everybody was kind of like, oh, you know what? My knee hurts, and I have to go pick up the kids. And as Royce is pacing back and forth, like, everybody's quitting very rapidly, like, oh yeah, my hip hurts, and everybody's sitting out, and I'm looking at the guys, this is, I have to play a show. I can't do that when my arm is missing, and he's angry. This is not good, right? And Royce kind of looks at me, you get on the mat, right? I'm like, oh my god, right? So we go and get on the mat, combat stand, let's go. And I'm looking at still my guys, this is, he's gonna kill me. And so he bump fist, and then he start laughing. Like, I was clearly like, I'm gonna die today, right? And he started laughing. Everybody was in on it, so everybody just started to laugh. Like, okay, you guys got it, right?
Okay,
like,
yeah.
It was the whole thing. He wasn't mad. He was just kidding. And so we did with our training session. And then literally after that, I was like, hey, give me a jiu-jitsu white belt. I'll start jiu-jitsu. Because the level of Navaza was like, holy shit, this is not something that, that we train Navaza, but not this sophisticated, right? And I was totally out of my element, right? And I'm like, oh, I gotta learn this, and I pretty much told him, give me a white belt, I start. And then after this, we became good friends, and I started to, in my off times, I would travel with either Royce or Hoyler to their seminars. So anytime they would travel and do a seminar somewhere, I would go. And so I was doing that for a while, and then I find an academy in Las Vegas. I joined that, and then I started training. Like, that's my home. It's a Gracie who made Las Vegas, and And then every time on the road, on the first couple of years, I would have my mats and I would go to local academies. So I would, call around and I would be a guest in these academies. And to tell you the truth, one of the things that I really love about this is this community. That was the moment I realized, like, I was welcomed everywhere. So this is how I met so many people. I have a pretty extensive network worldwide that I can go anywhere and I can go to various academies and I know people. Like, I land in Dubai and those guys already at the airport, like, hey, let's go train. I'm like, bro, I just arrived. Let me take a shower, Yeah. And anywhere I go, there's this friendship, this network, and so that's what I was doing. And then eventually, I actually got, as you heard, I have a couple of guys that are my security guys are black belts as well, and so we can pretty much train every day. So that's how
You've been competing for quite a while as well.
Yeah, so in judo I started when I was 11, I think I started to compete, and then in jiu-jitsu I pretty much started competing when I was a white belt. So I started at basically 2007, strictly jiu-jitsu, right? 2008 I was part of a team that Gracie. Team Mika, basically. Mika Sipili is my main professor. So it's Mika and Hoyler. They have a academy together here. And so I was part of Team Mika and this Gracie who made Las Vegas, basically. And even when I was a white belt, I already started competing. So, as much as I can. So many times I miss a lot of this, because I'm on the road. Like, I miss the Worlds. I was pretty mad about it because I had a show that day. I was playing in Texas and I'm like, maybe I could, but I signed up to all the competitions, tell you the truth. Even right now, I'm signed up to a lot of them, but I'm not sure which one I can make. So, I don't know my schedule, right? So I sign up to as much as I can, and whatever I can hit, I'll hit it, right? And I was in Texas, and I calculated the hours. My bracket was too late in that day, so I wouldn't make it back to the show, and I think people would be upset if I if I bailed on an arena show. But but as much as possible, I compete, and competed, as I said, since 07 or 08 or something like that. I think do
you find there's any
I like it too. Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but when you walk into that arena, and the mats are there, there's this vibe, like the warriors came back together, and I know a lot of people. It's the same, and it's kind of parallel to like playing festivals as a musician, because all the other bands that you're friends with, but they're on tour as well, so you rarely see them. They play in the same festival, so everybody comes together like, "Hey man, how you guys doing?" There's that thing, and it's the same thing. I pretty much friends. I'm pretty much friends with everyone that I've ever fought, any tournaments, and we come together and we see each other again, and it's just sometimes it's pretty funny because like it happened, like you have this conversation and the referee like, "Hey guys, are you gonna fight or what?" Because these are my friends, but okay, we have to fight, but we are friends. So we were talking next to the mat, and the referee was like, "Are you guys gonna keep hugging or come on the mat and do this thing," right? So I just love the vibe. I love the feeling, that when you go there, that tribe comes back together. That's one thing. The other thing, as I just said, I just like the competition. I don't get this adrenaline rush either. To me, it's kind of like, well, okay, this is about to happen. There's this some kind of a calmness. I have the same effect from shows. When I walk on stage, it doesn't matter to me. There can be 100,000 people, doesn't matter, because the song goes the same way. And the same thing in martial arts. You go on the mat, well, you train. It's nothing gonna change now. You have the skill set, and the cardio and whatever you brought with you right now. This is it, and this is gonna happen now. So you have to accept that inevitable. Like, here it is. And to me, it's kind of the world gets quiet. Like, there's this silence. Right? And I love that feeling. So I love competing for these various reasons.
Do you feel like there's any extra pressure on you being a celebrity? I got the impression that you wouldn't put pressure on yourself. You seem like a pretty chill, kind of anxious guy. But yeah, I'm curious. Do you feel any extra pressure? Support for Talk-Jitsu is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code JTJ at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 14 million balls. So what's your experience been with Manscaped?
Well, I've used probably a half a dozen different name brand products before, and they're terrible. I've cut myself every time, and these are very expensive, very well named brand products. And with Manscaped, I've never cut myself.
Exactly. And you know what I like the most about the Manscaped razor is it has a flashlight on it. And you think
that's the best.
It's amazing. You think that, oh, it's just this like, you know, feature, whatever, but actually it's kind of like, when you experience a light on your razor, it makes you wonder why no other ones have that too, because this is a game changer. You can just see everything so much easier, you know, even if you don't have the perfect lighting. So that was my favorite aspect of it. I was actually shocked how much better it made too, because I was, you know, doing my neckline and everything. I was like, oh, I can actually see where the line should be, right? Because there's a light. It's so simple and so smart. So I really like that from Manscaped.
100%. I thought, is this a gimmick? And then I tried it. I was like, no, this is the way. This is the only razor I've ever had that has a light on it, and it really lights the way to shaving your balls.
It does. It makes all the difference. I think a lot of other brands are maybe more towards like your hair or just your beard or something, right? But this is like the full package. So guys, JTJ at checkout, let's go. Do you feel any extra pressure?
No, not really, because even when I'm just training, like, look, I have to be conscious of a couple of things, right? So number one, I'm aware of that. I'm not aiming at the UFC. I'm not a professional fighter that lives from jiu-jitsu. I'm not in my prime. That boat sailed, right? And so you know, I don't like to use the word hobbies because it sounds like you're not serious. But you know, but it's not my prime. You know, it's not my prime. Occupation, right? And so, but I have a prime occupation as I'm a musician, and I need my fingers, I need my hands, and I have to be very conscious of injuries and what I'm getting into. So there's some situation, let's say, even training, and I don't care if it's a white belt, I don't care. If you got me in an armbar, right, for whatever reason, I have to think about this. Like, okay, I can, do the hitchhiker, I can maybe get out of this, but should I change that, right? So my mentality is a little bit different. You know, that's the only difference, I guess, that I have to really think about. Like, I'll tap. Who cares? You know. So I had to leave that ego behind. That I don't care what belt and who you are. If you got me, you got me. And certain things I'm not gonna fight for because if it's a 50-50, I'm not gonna chance it. You know, it's a 50-50. You know, if I can get out or I can get injured, then I'm gonna tap. Right now. Doesn't happen often, but if it happens, it is what it is. As for being a celebrity, I mean, like, look, I don't think there's a target on my back because of that, you know, but there's another side of it that generally people don't deal with. Because you're a celebrity, you're always going to be questioned. Is your bet legit? Is this a real thing? Did you just get this because who you are and, somebody gave it to you because they advance you because you're a celebrity or you're somebody and it looks good on that, So that's always a question, and most celebrities, I mean, obviously, like they have a high earning, job to protect, or, there's like a brain surgeon always would be very careful about, their jiu-jitsu practices. But, same with, I guess, celebrities. And so generally they train private. And, since it's a podcast, probably it's a good thing to talk about this. I'm not sure that they're doing privates because they're scared. I don't think they're scared. It's not that. It's just, that if you train with the general population, more likely for you to get injured, right? And if you're in the middle of shooting a movie that cost $100 million and now you have a broken hand or you're injured, there's a problem, right? So these guys gonna train in safe situations that are completely controlled, right? Now, I train with the general population. I train everywhere in the world. I walk into academies. It's like whatever, right? But I also have a lifelong of martial arts. I started when I was 9 years old. It's, can I get in a bad position? Of course, everybody can, but not as likely. It's not something I just recently picked up. So I have a natural motion already to avoid the worst case scenarios, right? But, I train with general population and I compete. And that's another thing. There are a couple of guys, I think Mario Lopez is competing now, and Tom Hardy is competing, right?
Tom Hardy, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a couple of celebrities getting now belts, and I feel like, look, I compete in super heavy, ultra heavy black belt masters, right? If I get on a podium, I don't, and I win some, I lose some, right? That means I earned to be there. It's not something, It's not like somebody sent me a belt like, oh, he's famous, let's get him a belt. Plus, I got my belt from Hoyler and Mika. Hoyler is Hoyler, and Mika is the second most decorated jiu-jitsu, competitor of all times. I think Megaton is first, right? The most titles ever. So these guys are not gonna hand out belts to anyone. This is bad for the reputation. And I tell you the truth, it's even me looking at it. It's kind of upsetting if I see questionable promotions, because it's delegitimizing the whole thing, right? And I think Jiu-Jitsu was one of the hardest belt. Jiu-Jitsu black belt is probably the hardest belt to get from all martial arts. It takes a long time, and it's you're just not going to get it if you didn't earn it, right? So I think I think those bullshit promotions are really hurting everything, and the way to counter that, I go and compete, right?
Exactly.
So I went, I got second in the national masters nationals black belt super heavy, and second place in the absolute as well. So at that point, probably people are not going to question that really. So the competition also, I'm not competing for this. I'm competing because I love competing, but this is a nice little side effect that is you're not being questioned, like, why did you get your black belt?
So when it comes to people that kind of are promoted too early, or kind of not too early, but early, and they kind of don't deserve it, like it's a tough thing too, because if someone trains for like 10 years, they almost get a time in black belt, right? And I know I've rolled a lot of people like that, where it's like I've rolled with blue belts that are tougher than some of the black belts I roll with, them even more technical sometimes. But like, how do you what's your opinion on that? Do you just hold people back, or is it on them to keep learning and getting better? Like, how do we address that?
No, that's actually a really good question, because hard to answer, and it's the kind of thing where we measure the time. Obviously, everybody does that. How many hours before you get a stripe, and then your next stripe, and and technically, I guess that's a good way to put it. You timed in. You earned the belt by the time. I don't know. That's a tough one, because that happens. Yeah. But in the same time, I guess, is it hurting somebody? Let's say you were there for 15 years and you're not really good, but you were there for 15 years and you put in your time and you get your black belt, and you're not really good. Let's say you don't have talent, but then at the same time, if you were there 15 years, I mean, you learned something, right? So even the time, if you timed in, even the time is 10 years, at least, right? So if you were there for 10 years, you still acquired knowledge. You still know what you're doing. It's almost impossible, right? That you didn't learn anything in that time. So would you hold yourself, or would you be able to hold yourself up in a competition? Probably, maybe not. I don't know, right? I would say probably, if it's not like if it's not an egregious one, like somebody just buy one on Amazon and then start an academy and declare themselves like, I'm a black belt, right? And then you teaching people the wrong way, right? So they have a sense of that I learned self-defense in martial arts, and actually you didn't, in a street situation that can be even more dangerous, right? Because you think and then you don't, right? And then it's clearly, it's not a crime, but it's kind of a crime in some way, that You pretend to be somebody. That's, I think all of us would take an issue with, right? And I see
it's a tough one.
These self-promoting guys like, hey, I decided today that I identify as a black belt. I just saw that the other day. I'm like, wow. Okay.
I saw that too.
Right.
It's hilarious.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's
definitely a tough one.
Right. That's
sorry, because I mean, back in the day, like I started 11 years ago, so probably I think how long you been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Jiu-Jitsu, about 13, I say, maybe more. Like, okay, 2007. So I said 2008. 14 years. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so pretty similar. And I remember back in the day when I started, like a black belt was a big deal. It was like the black, they're gonna kill, they can destroy you. But now when I see a black belt, I don't know what I'm gonna get. They could be really good or they could be mediocre, right? And it is kind of, I don't know, not sad, but like unfortunate in some ways because the black belt should be like highly coveted and highly regarded. But at the same time, it's tough because you don't want to hold people back. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, but that's why I don't know if the belt system is the best thing for jiu-jitsu, because I think sometimes people get promoted and they don't even want their promotions. They don't feel like they deserved it either, right? So I don't know. What's your opinion on the belt system?
It. I mean, we all felt like imposters in any time we got a belt, I guess. But I mean, look. Again, I think there's a massive difference between somebody getting that belt for the wrong reasons. The wrong reasons meaning like, hey, I'm going to be a black belt because I identify one and I'm going to start an academy or start teaching, right? So that's problematic. If somebody, because if somebody earns it and they're there for a long time and earn it, that isn't that equivalent with, let's say, somebody's a black belt, but now they're 60 years old. And then you have a purple belt who's a diesel. You know what I mean? A 4-stripe purple belt that everybody is an enemy. That guy will jump in an ocean to triangle choke a shark just because he's, you know what I mean? That's what purple belts do, right? So you got an absolute diesel purple belt who's 25 years old, and you're the 60 years old black belt. Technically, you have all the experience and all the techniques, and you're superior from that perspective. But can you stop this guy? See what I mean? Might not, right? Yeah. So, there's that too. Like, everybody's insane who thinks that as you age, you can hold on to this magical, knowledge. Now, back in the days, right? When you started and when I started, or let's say rewind to, I used to go to these martial art camps around early 2000s, right? And it was before the UFC was even sanctioned or allowed in all states. And so we would get together and, the Pat Miletich to Tito Ortiz, all these guys were coming into these camps. And at the time, a purple belt jiu-jitsu guy was, God amongst men. We didn't,
even a blue belt back in the day for me.
Right.
Yeah. Because in Canada, jiu-jitsu was way less popular. So blue belt was like, oh my God, a blue belt's coming.
Right.
So it's changed a lot.
I remember there was Gene LaBelle, right? Gene LaBelle was also coming to these camps. He was one of the instructors. But other than Gene, I'd never really seen a black belt, jiu-jitsu black belt ever in action from up close, ever. Until I met Royce in 2007, So, but look at it now, like that was the explosion of jiu-jitsu. Now, my academy alone has 56 black belts.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
All legit. There's not a single guy there who's a joke. Everybody's is competing hardcore black belts, right? So there's 56 black belts that's in my academy just in Las Vegas. And these guys are no joke. These are not black belts like your mom's check cleared, so here's your belt. These are legit competing black belts, right? So jiu-jitsu exploded into this the consciousness of the entire planet, and now we have plenty of black belts. And even my backstage dojo, when we're on the road, I always have guests. There are some days when I have 5-6 black belts coming out just training backstage with us, So now there's a lot of us, and then it becomes a thing where you know, when there's 2000 and I don't know 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Again, when a purple belt is already gods among men, you know, you're not gonna pretend to be a black belt. Now there's a crowd. There are thousands of black belts now. So of course there are gonna be bad apples. Of course there are people who didn't really quite earn it or get it from a questionable academy or just bought it online or whatever. They identify as black belts or whatever the situation is, right? So it can happen because there are so many now, you know.
Yeah, and I think one thing that factors into, is like lineage, right? Because lineage is a little less important. I wouldn't say it's less factored in now, just because people do have falling outs with their instructor, or their instructor had a falling out with their instructor, or they switched gyms multiple times, whatever. But back in the day, it was like you stay with your coach the whole time, and you know, your lineage is very traceable, right? So it's tougher now, because that was a great way of making sure of quality control in some sense. So yeah, it's changed so much.
I mean, it probably would be not a popular opinion, but because we were talking about how to solve this. I mean, because what I'm gonna say probably gonna, you know, maybe monopolize one organization. But if you say like IBJJF, right? You can't just, you know, without a legit professor signing that you're a black belt, they're not going to give you your card that you're a black belt, right? So, you know, so if you have an organizing body, like, you know, judo have the federations, if there's an organizing body that recognizes legitimate black belts, they do look at the lineage, right? So, you know, so let's say when I was brown belt during that, you know, during the blackout, the COVID era, right? When COVID started, well, I can't tour, so I'm sitting home. I was taking privates 2-3 times a week, you know, and I live in Las Vegas, so Las Vegas is a little bit different from the rest of the world. There are not many things closes here, right? It's like there's a nuclear explosion, but you can still bet. You know,
yeah.
So it's, you know, it's
here is quite the opposite,
right? Yeah. So I was training every day, and you know, so some days I would train, you know, at the academy and have a private, right? So in that, you know, in that year and a half or so, we were sitting home every day, right? So, and I was brown belt in that period, so I got my brown belt right where maybe a couple of months before COVID, and I was brown belt during that period, but in that period, I put in insane amount of time, right? And then after COVID, you know, I got my black belt maybe 6 months later. But in that time, there was no competition. So the IBJJF gave me a provisional card. Like obviously my professor signed off, and, you know, they can see my lineages, Euler and Mika. So, you know, so they got me, I got my, you know, so I can compete as a black belt, but it's provisional because as a brown belt, I didn't compete. I wasn't a member either because I just didn't renew or whatever. You know what I mean? So when that sort of thing happens, then, there is an organization that's paying attention. So if you go, hey, I'm a black belt, they're going to look at it like, well, you were not registered as a white belt, a blue belt, a purple belt, anything else. So, you know, and who is this guy that says that you are a black belt? Who is this professor? I never heard of him either, right? Then that would prevent a lot of this. So maybe that would be a thing. Like there's some kind of a, you know, a federation that actually looks at these lineage because lineage is important in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, because you mentioned you got to protect your fingers, but you also prefer gi. And like my fingers are so messed up from gi training. Like they're always in pain. And it doesn't, you're never tempted to go more of a no gi kind of focus?
Well, that is the truth. All right, they have a different opinion. I think you're gonna hurt your fingers more in a no-gi situation. It's simple psychology. I know when I'm grabbing for when I have a gi on. When you have no gi, you're just reaching in. You don't know what you're gonna hit, what body harder to grab. See, my opinion. I think you're safer actually in a gi. And, you know, I'm a guitar player and I'm doing it since I was 9. So, you know, so this has always been a thing. I tape differently. That's one thing. I'll tell you in a second how I tape. But also I'm super conscious of the grips, and maybe because it's coming from judo, right? I have really strong grips to begin with, but because I'm very conscious of what I'm grabbing and when I'm in danger and how, when you turn your grip, let's say you get a lapel grip and you turn it in, like you have to know when you turn it in. Sometimes I grab it and then I fold my fingers like this and you turn in a gi. So you have a really strong grip, but you also stuck. So you can't, you know what I mean? Like if that guy moves now, or you can, this grip can be exploited. So I'm really conscious of those things, like when I grip and how I grip, right? But I don't tape like how other people generally tape. So what I do is look at the hand's dexterity, right? So you take 2 fingers, I tape these 2 together and these 2 together. So I'm taped like a Vulcan, right? So this is my, the reason for that, because when you tape, if you hold these 2 fingers together and you move it like that, you can experiment this. You're going to feel a tension right here. This is not normal. So I can't tape these 2 together because actually it prevents my full range of motion, right? Because this is not good. These 2, they're going to be an immediate tension. Everybody right now at home tried it, right? So
we're doing it right now.
I'm doing it right now under the table.
So,
yeah, I see what you mean.
So you put these 2 together and then just move it, and you feel this tension up here, right? So that's not normal, right? What these 2 and these 2, this moves okay, right, together, and this moves okay, right? And you don't have a tension. So tape these 2 together and these 2 together. And it's also important you're not taping it completely super tight, because that when you fold it, if it's super tight, now you feel the tension again. So I leave somewhere, like you showed to the camera, somewhere like that, right? So I put a tape on here and here. So one tape here, one tape here. What happens, number one, the gi can't run in between my fingers because there's a tape, right? Same thing here. And I can get stuck here, but now it's 2 fingers. It's much harder to break 2 fingers than one, right? So that's why I tape the 2 together, because this is much stronger, right? And this has power, both of them. So I'm not losing dexterity. I'm not burning out my forearms, right? And I have the grip. And again, like, as I look at this, I know it's going to be weird, but I can still do the same motion. So I reach for your gi, and look, I purposely keep it apart. I can still do the turn. Now, with these 2, you could completely lose that. And now your pinky is weak. See what I mean? So I tape differently. Yeah. This I tape, and this way my grips are still strong. I'm not burning out my forearms. It's not unnatural, and I'm preventing the single finger isolation. Once you isolate one finger, it's weak. This is strong. So I mean, like, look, I'm gonna knock on something here, but never broke a finger. You know what I mean? So, and I grip. So, like, I gotta find some wood now because I'm gonna jinx myself. But, but that's, I tape that way, and I'm super conscious of the gi. Now, with no gi, how reaching in, anytime I jam something, it happens, on impact. It never happens for grip. It's impact. I reach for something and I got hit. Like, actually, my thumb right now is not so happy because I got hit. Accidentally, just boom. And I monkey grip a lot of stuff, even like, for example, let's take a kimura, right? So let's go with the traditional, somebody touches the mat and you reach, in your guard. So the guy's in your guard, touches the unbalanced, touches the mat. High belts will never do that, but let's just say that happens, right? And you grab the wrist, right? Go across and you go for kimura. I actually don't grab the wrist. That's too strong close to your body. You know what I mean? And that, you can't monkey grip that one because if you monkey grip, you're just gonna slid out. So you have to have a full grip on that wrist, right? I don't like that because of my thumb, right? So I actually grab the gi. I grab a pocket grip and twist it so it's tight. So I grab the pocket and twist it. And now I'm going to go, So it prevents you to slip out of my grip, and I can do the same motion. So that all happens like pocket grip and I twist the grip. And so in a second, I shorten it. It's just as good if I grabbed your if I grabbed your wrist. So a lot of these grips, I actually use the gi shorten your gi and twist my grips to shorten it, and then it's stuck. So I do a lot of those things. So for me personally, I feel safer with gi than no gi for us, for the fingers.
Yeah. And it's like, the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the more you've been doing it, like the longer you've been doing it, you kind of just learn how to, keep yourself safe. And a lot of new people, they don't know how to keep themselves safe. So I try to stress as much as I can and teach people how to stay safe. And, but not everyone listens, and people hurt themselves all the time when they shouldn't. But, I think that gripping, that taping of the fingers, I think I'm going to start doing that too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, my fingers are always sore.
Yeah, mine are messed up.
But part of it, like you said, is being aware of your grip and, letting go when you need to and not being stubborn. I get really stubborn. I got to stop doing that.
This is one of the things that I always stress. Like I generally, if I teach classes, I do competition class, and sometimes I do seminars, and it's generally competition class takedown. And all that start with, the Kazushi grip sequences, and most importantly, the psychology of what happens, how this fight breaks out, and how it starts on the street or when you go compete. What's going to happen? We are grapplers, right? I can't punch you. So if I can't punch you, then until somebody grabs somebody, we are not doing anything. We're just standing there, right? So somebody going to grab somebody for sure. That's what's going to happen, right? And so if that's the case, then then it's in a second I break grips again. Good for as my philosophy. So I'm not discrediting anybody else or whatever that works for them works for them. Me personally, I don't break the grip necessary, because you're gonna grab me anyway. This is going to happen. I just want you to grab me where I want you to grab me. Right. So instead of me not letting you grab me and keep resetting the fight, I'm going to let you grab me where I want you to grab me. Right. So very often I reach in lazy because I know you're going to grab the pocket grip. I know you're going to get that. Right. And then I test it. If I get a pocket grip, then it's number one, whatever grip you get. If you get this one, I'm going to circle that way. I don't want your second grip. Right, so same thing standing as you were on the ground, right? You can put in one hand. I'm just not going to let you put another one. With one hand, you can't choke me, but the second one we're watching for, right? So it's the same idea here. We're standing. I'll let you grab me with one hand. I most likely will not let you grab the other one. So now, if you have only one hand on me, harder to pull guard. There are some possibilities, but it's hard. Unlikely. So harder to pull guard, harder to jump. You can't really jump anything, triangles, jump guards, whatever. You want to jump again with one hand, questionable. And I'm a big guy. I'm 220, right? So I'm going to fight guys that big. They don't jump high. So I'm going to let you grab me one, whatever I give you, probably. I stand 45, right? So I'm a little bit in a diamond shape with my legs, 45. And so that means this part of my body is out of the fight. You can't reach it. You have to reach way across me to reach it. So once I turn this much, now this side of my body is out, right? So what happens here? You can grab me here, you can grab me here, or you can grab me here. I gave that to you by me turning that way, right? And basically from there, it's all psychology of I will watch what you do, and I'm aware of that. Once you have a hand on me and it's a good grip, I can also move you around with my body. I don't necessarily have to have a grip either, right? So if I step back and you extend, then I know that you're not conscious of this, right? And so I play around a lot with that. Like in a second I move, I already feel that if you're conscious of that motion or not, right? And then I obviously I use that, and I'm gonna fight from that understanding that where you are, how you're gonna move, right? And it's same thing with what we were talking about when somebody's sitting. I know that you're a guard player, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting, right? When you stand and you walk out, from your posture, if you're straight, hip forward, you're a judo guy. So I have to handle you such. If you're coming out with the hands low, you're a wrestler, right? Right? If your butt is back and your hands forward, you're a jiu-jitsu guy. You always train jiu-jitsu. So I already know that.
Yeah.
Right? So I look at your posture. I already know what is your strength, and I'm going to handle the situation with that, knowing that okay, wrestler. So I'm going to have to watch for, I'm going to have to probably sprawl if you know what I mean. I have to watch for the touching my legs, right? And so
exactly,
it's kind of like that strategy. It's a lot of strategy, really. Like how did we get here? And then from there, Kuzushi. How do you move somebody out of balance? Right? There are many ways to do that, right? And a lot of judo. This is one thing I modified for me, at least. And when I teach classes, I talk about this, that a lot of judo throws are actually pushing upward, right? So making you light, right? And so it's funny because I have judo guys that I trained with in the past, and then they look at and they see me, rolling or do jiu-jitsu, and they're like, what happened? And I'm like, I know it's not pretty, because it's not, you know what I mean? But this works, and in these circumstances, this works, right? There are certain things like if I elevated you, right? I actually gave you an option not to jump guard. Again, in judo, this would never happen. In jiu-jitsu, this is a strong possibility, right? So if I'm trying to break your balance and I'm doing that with pushing you upward, which is a lot of throws come from pushing you up, right? Lightening you, I just gave you the option to pull guard. I don't want to give you the option. I don't want to be in your guard, right? So actually, I changed that. So when I break balance, I'm pulling down, right? And as I said, I load you on one leg. And once I loaded you on that leg and that leg stuck, I am very consistent about the vector. Like I will not change direction now. So I pulled you this way. That's 100%. I'm going to keep pushing you that way. I'm not going to let you move the other way. So I'm not going to snap. I'm not going to do any motion that is now outside of that vector that I initiated, right? So I had to change a lot of those. So, I'm very conscious of that. And that's no longer nice judo, but it's nice jiu-jitsu, right? Because again, my judo guys like, what was that, right? Like for certain throws. Like for example, I go for let's say koshiguruma, right? I like koshiguruma. It's one of my favorite throws. The way I do it, I use an upper grip right here in the neck, right? I use that because not many wrist locks there. There's one if you lock your head, right, and you can roll over, but I'm conscious of that. So if I grab you here, you can lock this hand, right, and you can roll over. There's a wrist lock there, but other than that, not much. And I'm pretty strong hand there. So once I get that grip, I never just grab somebody. That's another rule I always say. Like, you don't just grab somebody. If you grab me and you hang out there for a couple of seconds, I will 100% use it against you. If you grab me, move me immediately. So if you grab, move. There is no such thing of like, and then we're waiting for the dance music to start so we can, it's, if I grab you, I'm moving you. So that's either I pull you or push you, but there's no static grip. So once I grab that upper neck, right, basically what I do, instead of me going around your neck to go for the koshiguruma, I pull you really strong and I let it go. Let go of the grip. So what happens was I yank your head forward and I let go of the grip. Your head will just slide right in here. If I'm mean, I could actually knock you out with my shoulder, but your head will just roll in here. So my hand is behind your neck now, right? Instead of achieving that, I just pull you in there. And then as I'm going in, traditionally, if I wanted to do a nice throw, I will turn under you, even elevate I get on my toes, so I hip bump you and get on my toes to get that extra air, so you can get the nice upside down shot for the magazine insert, right?
Yeah.
But
nice hip throw.
There are dangers there. So my throw is no longer that nice. I have some beautiful pictures where the guy is scraping the ceiling, but it's a higher level in jiu-jitsu, the least likely that you can throw somebody. Black belt jiu-jitsu guy knows where to go. It's not easy to throw them. When I was a blue belt, I was slamming blue belts around, but now it's getting harder and harder. So a lot of things I had to modify. So I go around your neck, right? And instead of
slamming my hip under you and elevate you, every time I just push your head. So there's this downwards corkscrew motion. Like imagine you grab somebody's head and I'm pushing you with my arm and pushing your head down and torque, because it kind of twists your spine and you can't recover from that, right? So all my throws, instead of hip bumping you and getting air, I'm more like torquing you and pushing you down, right? So it's not as nice, right? But you can't stop me. You know what I mean? Like there's no antidote. There's not much you can do there. You have to be twice my size. I'm already 220, so good luck. So yeah. So once I torque your spine, and another beautiful thing is that there is no over rotation. Like, I could, back in the days, man, Uchimata, I murdered people with Uchimata, right? Now I'm very careful with that, because a big Uchimata will over rotate me. So now, I threw you in Judo, Ippon, it's over. But in Jiu-Jitsu, I just over rotated. So now you're on top. You know what I mean? So I had to modify these things, like how much lift, how much I bump. Do I even bump now? You know what I mean? Because that, the more, inertia you have, now I'm gaining that inertia as well, and I can over rotate. So those things I had to, adjust, and had to, figure out to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because as I said, my old judo guys like, dude, what the hell was that? What kind of lame ass throw is that? And I'm like, dude, that's not the same.
Different sport.
Different sport.
Exactly. Different sport. Yeah. Exactly. Because the rule sets of sports like judo or sambo or jiu-jitsu, that's what impacts the style. And not everyone realizes that, but that's because it's all the same stuff, or the way our bodies work and stuff like that. But then, what you focus on and what you do in that rule set, that's what changes. So you're making me want to learn judo though.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like we got to go find a judo academy or something, but we won't keep you any longer. But we really appreciate this conversation. I think it went great. And if you're ever in Canada and around Toronto, we would love to train with you, but no pressure either, but it'd be a great time for sure.
100%. Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah. Next time you're in town, send me a message, or I'll send you a message. I'll look out for it, because we're big fans of the band. And we
in Canada. So in Toronto.
I have my own gym called Limitless Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's about an hour and a half from Toronto. I also have a YouTube channel you should check out. It's called Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I know.
And that's
it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it'd be awesome to meet you and roll with you for sure. Yeah. I promise I won't pull guard. And I promise. It'll be tempting too, because I can get thrown.
I remember this. I went to the first competition. I went to my very first competition. I was a white belt, and I show up, and they didn't let me. They didn't let me compete. I show up, and they were doing the brackets, and the organizers were like, "Hey, oh, we know you." Like, oh, hell no. Like, because they were looking in a black belt division, like where I'm fighting, and they couldn't find my match. It was not an IBJJ fight, so it was a different promotion. And so they were trying to find the bracket. Like, they were looking through the black belt divisions, and it's like, you're not registered. I'm like, 100%. I did register. And it's like, what? It's not in here. And I'm like, well, it's white belt, They're like, white belt? Like, no. And then organizers came and said, no, you're not gonna not allow. And so Mika had to come, and there was this whole conversation, and he said, okay, we let you fight in purple belt, one weight class up. And then I was a white belt, and so Mika was like, no, he's not a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu, so that can't happen. It's like, well, but he's a black belt in Judo. We know him. It's no way. And so there was an agreement that I had to go up 2 weight classes to blue belt, right? And first guy, 25 seconds. I launched this guy. Like, his contact lenses popped out. I'm not even. and then all the promoters and the organizers came into that square of the mat, and everybody was standing there, like for the next fights. I'm like, holy, So
it's admiring.
It's really funny. But now, it's a different story. Once I tell you the truth, it's like once I got my black belt, it's some kind of a pressure went away, you know, because I always thought this, like, look, if I win a fight, people are always going to say like, yeah, but, see what I mean? It's like any belt you are, they're going to say, yeah, but he's a judo black belt, right? But now it's like, hey, it's you're a black belt, you know, it's there's no excuse, doesn't matter at this point, you know what I mean? So it took away a little bit of a stress. It was actually stressful for me because of that very first promotion that, you know, everybody I launched, you know, they all, every time I threw somebody, they would all look at Mika like, yo, your guy is just killing people here. We told you that, you know what I mean? And so it always created this, like, I'm a sandbagger if I, you know, if I'm fighting in that lower, you know, belt level. But now it's like, you know, it's different. So
yeah, it's got to be freeing for sure, you know. Right. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, again, thank you so much for you know, giving us your time, and I'll have this posted today if you want to check it out. Okay. You know, yeah, it'll be posted today.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right, guys.
All right, take care.